Hello students, faculty, and staff. I first want to start off by saying how grateful I am to have the opportunity to speak to you all today and to speak at what is the first UCC Assembly centered around Armenia. For many of you, April 24th is just a regular day, but for myself and Armenians around the world, it is one of the most difficult days of the year. It represents the beginning of the Armenian Genocide, during which 1.5 million Armenians were murdered, raped, and tortured. Today marks the 108th anniversary of the Armenian Genocide, where Armenians all around the world remember the martyr and fight for the recognition of the genocide. To this day, the Turkish government denies that such a genocide exists. As a result of the genocide, Armenians were forced off of their land and have created one of the world's largest diasporas. It has also caused Armenia to be almost unseeable on the world map, as much of our historic land is part of modern-day Turkey. Unfortunately, violence has followed Armenia. As September of 2020, Azerbaijan initiated a full-on war that took place in the disputed region of Artsakh. Despite its population being 90% Armenians, the region, which is recognized as a part of Azerbaijan, has been a subject of conflict. The war that only lasted 44 days was devastating to Armenians, including attacks on the common citizen, the elderly, and inhumane executions of soldiers, leading to the ethnic cleansing of Armenians in the region. This included driving residents out of their homes and the destruction of many historical monuments. Currently, Azerbaijani forces have blockaded the Lachin corridor, which is the only road that connects Artsakh to Armenia. This blockade has been going on for over 100 days and has jeopardized the lives of thousands. Imagine Ontario's borders are blocked by surrounding provinces, with no way to deliver necessities such as food and water to its people. Armenian citizens in Artsakh have no access to healthcare and struggle to have a secure supply of electricity and gas. Every day, the Armenian residents in Artsakh live on edge if they are going to wake up to war or peace. We should truly appreciate that we can wake up every day without worrying about death and destruction. Hopefully these conflicts can end one day, and I can solely speak about the beauty of Armenia, including its traditional dances and its amazing food. Despite being a small country, Armenians have made a significant impact on the world, and their contributions continue to be celebrated and appreciated today, from the invention of the ATM, the MRI, and even Reddit. Today, I am glad that we have with us a UCC old boy, DePencier, who attended UCC from year 7 to 10 and was a member of Scouts. During the 44-day war, Finn traveled to Armenia to report on the conflict. One of the highlights of his journalism there is the documentary on the use of white phosphorus by Azerbaijan, which Finn directed and filmed. Also, Finn, with the help of our very own Ray Wu, created a documentary on Ukraine called The Kharkiv Files, which details the battle for Ukraine's second largest city, told by those who lived through it. I'd now like to call up Ray to speak a little more on the documentary.
Good morning, everyone. I had the pleasure of working with Finn as an editor for his feature-length documentary, The Kharkiv Files. For us, this film has been an incredibly long, emotional, but rewarding journey. Throughout the editing process of the film, we had to constantly keep a critical eye on the narrative, making sure that every cut we make, every clip that we decide to take out or keep in is for the right reason. It was incredibly important not to get lost in a small thing, like audio, level, or color, and lose sight of how the piece will play into the 65-minute long big picture. I'm happy that the post-production of the film is over, and that the hard work of many brave journalists can be shown. So without further ado, I want to welcome Finn DePencier to the podium.
Thank you so much, Ray and Andrew, for that introduction. And so my name is Finn DePencier. I'm a journalist, photographer, and filmmaker. I've spent the last few years reporting from Armenia, Kazakhstan, Lebanon, and Ukraine. And today I'm going to be speaking about mostly my work in Armenia and the conflict over the disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh. So in November 2020, the Russian government brokered a ceasefire over this region, which saw Armenia relinquish vast swaths of land. So Armenia was decidedly defeated in this war. And I'm going to talk about why Armenians view this conflict as a continuation of the genocide. And I was reporting in Armenia for almost a year and a half, so country that's very, very special to me, and this conflict is what I've devoted the majority of my short career to thus far. Next slide, please. So what you're looking at now is a picture of me at Tsitser-Nakaberd, which is Armenia's genocide memorial. And this is a place that every single year on this day, Armenians gather around the memorial and they stack flowers around around what they call the eternal flame. And as Andrew was explaining, this is the day when the Turkish government started to round up Armenian intellectuals and when the genocide really began. So, next slide. This is a picture I took 2 years ago on this day, and it shows a woman mourning at Tsitser-Nakaberd, and she's holding up a photo of one of her dead family members. I'm not sure if it's her son or her brother or whoever, but I thought this was a really good illustration of how Armenians see there to be a through line between the genocide in 1915 and the ongoing conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh. And Nagorno-Karabakh is also called Artsakh, which is how Andrew referred to it. Next slide. So likewise, a photo I took 2 years ago on the day. And this is, we're looking at a bunch of Armenians holding up pictures of their dead relatives, soldiers that were killed in the war. Next, please. So how can we draw this through line between the genocide and the conflict over this region? So Turkey and Azerbaijan are very close allies. Turkey, of course, is the successor state to the Ottoman Empire, which committed the Armenian genocide over 100 years ago. And in the conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh, Turkey supplied Azerbaijan with weapons, intelligence, and munitions. Most importantly was their supplying of the TB2 Bayraktar drone, which proved to be very, very important on the battlefield. So instead of directly attacking Armenia, Turkey uses Azerbaijan as a proxy. And so right now what we're looking at is a picture of Turkish President Recep Erdogan and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev at a victory parade in Baku, which is the capital of Azerbaijan. And here I have a quote from the Turkish president where he said, "Today, may the souls of Nuri Pasha, Enver Pasha, and the brave soldiers of the Caucasus Islam Army be happy." And so Nuri and Enver Pasha were both generals in the Ottoman Empire. I think Enver Pasha was the Ottoman Minister of War. And so you can imagine if Germany this day fought a war against Israel, and then German Chancellor Olaf Scholz was praising the souls of Adolf Hitler and Joseph Goebbels. So we're absolutely right to say that Turkey and Azerbaijan have genocidal intent. Next slide, please. But what can we say about Russia's role in the conflict? So Armenia and Azerbaijan are both former Soviet republics, and here we're looking at a map of the Caucasus during Soviet times. So the Caucasus is made up of Azerbaijan, Armenia, Georgia, that's the South Caucasus, and then the Northern Caucasus consists of Dagestan, Chechnya, and some other regions. And so you can see, yes, so here is the region of Nagorno-Karabakh, or Artsakh, as Andrew was referring to it. So in 1921, Joseph Stalin arbitrarily granted the Soviet Socialist Republic of Azerbaijan this region, despite the fact that it was 70% ethnically Armenian. So these two countries were held together, most importantly with the ideology of communism. That's what kept them together, but these ethnic tensions were always brewing under the surface. And after Stalin gave away this ethnically Armenian region to Azerbaijan, it created a time bomb that would eventually be set off almost 70 years later when the Soviet Union fell. Next slide. And so here we're looking at the Caucasus. This is a map made in 2009. This is showing all the different conflicts that erupted after the Soviet Union fell apart. So we have Nagorno-Karabakh. Here we have Abkhazia and South Ossetia. So in the orange, these are conflicts that are still ongoing. These are areas where there's Russian military presence. And then up here we have Chechnya, where a brutal war was fought in the 1990s, Dagestan, and a whole bunch of others. And you can see how the dissolution of the Soviet Union caused absolute chaos. So between 1988 and 1994, and I don't expect you all to absorb all this, it's something that would take many books to understand, but from 1988 to 94, Armenia and Azerbaijan fought a war in which Armenia was victorious. Armenia fought to retake all this land, okay? And then in 2020, Azerbaijan launched a war in which they retook the land. So next slide. So this is what the region looks like at present. So that red line, this is the previous line of contact. So everything to the left of that red line up until the Armenian border in yellow, that was the region of Nagorno-Karabakh that Armenian separatists controlled until 2020. After the ceasefire in 2020, Azerbaijan retook all this land in orange and this land in the dark blue. The only part of the land that Armenia still retains is this area in the light blue, and so as you can see, it's separated from the rest of mainland Armenia. And so the only thing connecting mainland Armenia with the region of Nagorno-Karabakh is a very small and dangerous road here called the Lachin Corridor. Now again, I would strongly recommend you all do some independent reading on the matter. I don't have enough time to explain it all, but what you might notice here is that we have little bits of each country within the other. So we have a little bit of Armenian territory within Azerbaijan, we have a little bit of Azerbaijani territory within Armenia. This right here is called Nakhchivan. It's an Azerbaijani exclave bordering Armenia, Iran, and Turkey. And whenever you're looking at a map of a region in which there's a little piece of one country within another, this is probably the sign of some unresolved conflict. So next slide. So this is another conflict area in the post-Soviet world. These are the borders of Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan, which are also former Soviet republics. And we can see here that we have little pieces of Uzbekistan and little pieces of Tajikistan inside of Kyrgyzstan. So people often talk about how the British drew really atrocious and nonsensical borders after the end of the First World War, but I think that the nonsense of the Soviet borders really puts them to shame. So next slide, please. So I'm now just going to show some pictures that I took in Armenia. So this is a friend of mine, Vazken, on the left. He's an Armenian Canadian. Something Andrew was saying is that Armenia has a very massive diaspora population because after the genocide, when Armenians were kicked out of their historical lands, they were spread all throughout the globe. And so I met Vazken in Armenia when he was working with a volunteer organization. And so I met up with him when we were delivering some aid to this injured soldier. And as you can see, he lost both his legs. It's very rare in modern warfare to encounter somebody who died or was injured by a bullet wound. It's very often artillery and rocket fire, and so people get injured and die in very horrible ways. Next slide, please. This is a picture at Yereblur, which is Armenia's military cemetery, and that's the name of the soldier who died, David, or David in Armenian, and 19, that's the age that he was killed at. So every Armenian man, when he turns 18, has to spend 2 years in the military. So something worth reflecting on for all of you in IB2 right now. Next slide. And this is another example of just how young a lot of the soldiers were when they died. And I picked this picture because this guy died, he was born in 1998, which is the year that I was born in. Next slide. This is a picture of a car destroyed in front of somebody's destroyed house in the village of Martuni. I know that UCC is a thriving film program, and I'm always seeing people with their cameras out doing various sorts of projects. And photography is really one of the best ways to illustrate these conflicts. I really love being behind the camera. Next slide. This is probably my favorite picture that I took in Armenia. It's a soldier in the Armenian province of Syunik, and this was shortly after Azerbaijan launched an incursion into southern Armenia, so not Nagorno-Karabakh, not this disputed region, but Armenia itself, and they occupied this very strategic lake, and that was in May of 2021, and ever since then, Azerbaijan has been basically conquering Armenia in a piece-by-piece fashion. They've been launching these military offensives where they take a bit of land and then stop, and then they wait a few months, they take a little bit more land, and so this conflict is very much still ongoing. Next slide, please. So the most important piece of work that I did in Armenia, as Andrew alluded to, was this documentary about white phosphorus victims. And here we're looking at a soldier, his name is Nadek. He was an officer, and he was very, very badly burned by this chemical. If you want to watch the film, it's right there, White Phosphorus in Artsakh on Artsakh Media's YouTube channel. Next slide. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about Ukraine and about the film that Ray helped me make. I thought I'd spend most of the time on Armenia because it's such a lesser understood conflict, and I figure most of you understand what's going on in Ukraine. So 72 hours before the war started, I was in Armenia, and I got a call from a colleague of mine. He said that Russia was about to invade, and that we had a responsibility to go. We'd regret it if we didn't. This is our job. We have to go to Ukraine. I was like, okay. So I bought a plane ticket, and I arrived the next day. It was like a 3-hour flight from Yerevan to Kiev. A lot of the conflicts in the world are very much in the same neighborhood. And then 48 hours later, the war started, and I spent the first 3 weeks reporting the country for CTV and Palladium magazine, and ever since, I've been working on this documentary with Ray and a whole bunch of other people. It's called the Kharkiv Files. It's about the battle for Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv, so it's in northeastern Ukraine, and that's where I was when the war started. Next slide. This is just an amazing frame taken by one of my colleagues. This is actually in Bakhmut, showing a multiple launch rocket system. Next slide. And this is one of my favorite characters in the film. We call him Shrek. He calls himself Shrek. And I can't wait to show you all the film. I know some students got to see our premiere on February 24th at the National Club, and we're working very hard to have it released. Next slide. Yeah, so that'll be the end of my presentation, and we're just going to show you a few minutes of the film. This was taken around this time last year, and I thought we'd end on a bit of a hopeful note. This is the moment when winter turns to spring in eastern Ukraine.
No, she's not afraid.
Does she think that Russia at the moment, or is she still afraid that Russia will come into the city?
Я ничего не думаю, просто буду дальше заниматься своими делами. Знаете, как есть в России, извините, Лен, знаете, как есть хорошая поговорка? Человек предполагает, а Бог располагает. Вот человек предполагает, а Бог располагает. И будет все так, как оно должно быть. Цветы будут расти, сады цвести, мы плоды будем собирать, а вы к нам в гости приезжать. Будем с вами чай пить и дружить. Пирогом напечем, стол накроем посреди двора. Я покажу цветы, вместо садки.
They lived 3 months without electricity, and now, hallelujah, they have it.
Мы уже морозы пережили без окон, так что теперь не страшно. Каждый день радуюсь тому, что весна, тепло. Будем сейчас во дворе убирать стекла, лед, деревья. Весну встречать и лето. Цветы, деревья сажать. Мы за домом уже сажали много.
Why is it important?
На рынке купила, посадили.
want their place to be beautiful. Все равно, что собирают цветы.
Садимо квітки, а от там от літають ракети.
They will flower there and so the rockets fly.
And I almost forgot his scatting's in the house. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Finn, for sharing these stories. Please accept this small token of our gratitude. So, Finn.